Ladies, stop showing up for people who don't show up for you. He ghosted you, disrespected you, lied to you. Stop writing long emotional messages. Stop over-explaining. Don't react instantly. Cut him off silently. Because silence is not weakness, it's power dressed in elegance. And trust me, when you master this, he won't forget you. You see, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. It's not that you don't have words to say, it's that you have the power to hold them back. The most dangerous woman isn't the one who screams when she's hurt. It's the one who says nothing, smiles, and walks away without a sound. That kind of silence, it's not empty. It's loud. It's powerful. It speaks in a language only the wise can hear. Because when you go silent, you stop giving your energy to things that drain you and start investing in things that grow you. Take a moment and think. How many times have you reacted instantly to something or someone who didn't even deserve your time? He lied to you. He ignored your texts. He disappeared for days and came back with the same excuse. And you? You poured your heart out, typed an essay, sent a storm of messages, cried over someone who slept peacefully. That wasn't strength. That was your emotions hijacking your peace. But now, no more. Now, you let your silence do the talking. Because silence isn't ignoring. It's choosing maturity. Flame, quiet but powerful. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need validation. It just is. And that is terrifying to people who are used to controlling you with your reactions. Let me give you a daily life example. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your first instinct is to yell, honk, maybe chase them down to prove a point. But have you ever noticed what happens when you just let it go? You're not late. You're not angry. You didn't carry that energy into the rest of your day. That's what silence gives you. Emotional control. The same applies when someone tries to provoke you emotionally. Not everything deserves a reply. Not every insult needs a comeback. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Not everything deserves a comeback. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is emotional congestion. At work, someone might try to undermine you, gossip about you, take credit for your effort. The old you would fight back, create drama, maybe even confront them in front of everyone. But the elevated version of you, she stays calm. She documents everything. She builds quietly. She lets her results speak so loudly that no lie can survive beside them. That's silence as a weapon. You're not surrendering. You're strategizing. When he pulls away to get your attention, hoping you'll chase him, you don't text. You don't call. You don't show up at his door. Because your silence shows him you're not someone who begs for love. You're someone who commands it. And in that quiet, he will hear his biggest fear, your absence. Even in friendships, sometimes people cross your boundaries. They laugh at your dreams. They show up only when it benefits them. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to teach them how to treat you. You simply go silent. You distance. You move. Trust me. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, push your buttons, test your limits, don't react. Smile. Breathe. Say nothing. Because your silence isn't a gap in words. It's a shield of wisdom, power, and unshakable confidence. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them fear the sound of a woman who doesn't need noise to be heard. Instant reactions are emotional traps dressed as justice. They feel good in the moment. They feel like release, like you're taking your power back. But more often than not, they're just a way of handing your power over on a silver platter to someone who never earned it. Every time you explode, every time you scream, every time you hit send on that long text that begins with, "I just don't understand why," you give them exactly what they wanted: your energy, your time, your peace, your attention. And that, queen, is the real trap. We've been conditioned to think reacting means strength. But real strength is the pause. Real power is in restraint. Think about it. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you later regretted? Of course. We all have. That's the trap. Emotions rush in like a storm, and before logic gets a chance to speak, the damage is already done. You burn bridges you might need. You create scars with your words. And the worst part? You leave feeling worse, not better. Because that reaction didn't heal you. It only exposed your wound to someone who didn't deserve to see it. Picture this. You're having a bad day. Someone at work questions your ability. Maybe your partner sends a dry reply. Instantly, your heart races, your thoughts spiral, your pride flares. You feel this urgent need to defend yourself, to say something sharp, something clever. But what if you didn't? What if you just paused, took a walk, closed your eyes, gave yourself a full minute of silence? You'd see the situation differently. Maybe it wasn't personal. Maybe they were projecting their own insecurities. Maybe your silence would have said more than any words ever could. In relationships, this trap is everywhere. He doesn't reply to your message, and suddenly your mind is writing a whole movie script. He's ignoring me. He doesn't care. He must be with someone else. And bam, you text paragraphs, call 5 times, maybe even block him. Then later you find out he was asleep, or at work, or just taking a moment. And now you're left embarrassed, overexposed, and emotionally drained. That's the price of reacting instantly. It traps you in stories your emotions made up. Even in friendships, it shows up. A friend forgets to invite you, you feel betrayed. You start doubting the entire relationship. You want to cut them off, throw shade online, maybe even talk about them to others. But what if it was an honest mistake? What if you waited and found clarity before chaos? That's the test. Can you master your mind when your emotions are screaming for revenge? Imagine you're walking through a forest and a snake bites you. You now have 2 options. Chase the snake and try to kill it, or run to get the venom out. Instant reaction says, chase it. But wisdom says, save yourself. That's exactly what reacting emotionally does. It keeps you chasing snakes while the poison spreads inside you. And often, the one who bit you is long gone, living peacefully while you suffer. Every strong woman has learned this lesson the hard way. She's said too much. She's cried in front of the wrong person. She's exposed her soul in the name of truth. But then she realized, some battles are won in silence, not screams. Some people only exist to pull you into the trap of reaction because they know your heart is soft, your love is deep, your fire burns bright. So they poke, they trigger, they test. And when you don't fall for it, that's when you win. That's when the trap fails. So when the urge react comes like fire through your veins, breathe. Don't speak from pain. Don't move from rage. Sit with it. Let it pass. The more you do, the more they lose control over you. Because nothing shakes a person more than a woman who refuses to dance to their chaos. Cutting him off isn't cruelty. It's clarity. It's not heartless. It's fearless. It's choosing yourself in a world that trained you to bleed for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. Cutting him off doesn't mean you're bitter. It means you finally woke up. You finally realized that begging for love, for consistency, for decency was never your job. Your job was never to fix broken men with your soft heart. Your job is to protect your peace, your light, your soul. And sometimes that starts with silence, with distance, with a clean break. We grow up hearing that love is sacrifice. But what they don't tell you is, real love doesn't require you to shrink. It doesn't ask you to accept less than you give. It doesn't demand you carry the weight of a one-sided relationship. He didn't forget your worth. You just allowed him to treat you like you forgot it. And now, you remember. You remember who you are. And because of that, you don't owe him closure. You don't owe him explanations. You owe yourself peace. And if that peace means cutting him off, then that's not cruelty. That's sacred. Think about it like this. Would you keep watering a plant that keeps dying no matter how much love you pour into it? No. At some point you realize the soil is toxic, and continuing to give it life means losing your own. Cutting him off is exactly that moment. The moment you stop cutting him off is exactly that moment. Realization that it's not about him growing, it's about you surviving. It's about you finally saying, this is not my garden to heal. Take a daily life moment. When your phone dies, what do? You don't beg it to come back on. You don't cry and plead. You charge it. You put energy where it matters. But in relationships, we chase people who have already gone dark. We keep sending messages to emotional voicemails, hoping this time they'll answer. But when you cut someone off, you're saying, I no longer give energy to the unresponsive. I no longer invest in what drains me. I recharge myself now. There are women listening right now who are afraid to let go because they think cutting him off is cruel. No, darling, staying is what's cruel. Cruel to your spirit. Cruel to your unshi. 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 Anshi. 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 And then they say, I still take babysitting jobs. Cruel to your dreams. Cruel to that little girl inside you who once believed in magic, in fairy tales, in being chosen. Every time you settle, you tell her she's not worth more. But when you walk away, without screaming, without revenge, just a calm, cold goodbye, you tell her, we don't chase love here, we attract it. You don't punish a man by cutting him off. You liberate yourself. You stop the cycle. You create space for better. And believe me, when you stop texting, when you stop replying, when you stop begging. He feels it. Men hear silence louder than screams. He will replay every word you didn't say. Wonder why you're not crying this time. Question why your number doesn't show up anymore. And that's not your intention, but it is the effect of choosing yourself over his chaos. Even in the workplace, sometimes you have to cut people off. The co-worker who belittles you in meetings. The manager who manipulates your efforts. You don't have to explode. You just detach. You show up. You shine. And when they look for a reaction and get your absence instead, they realize she doesn't need to fight. She already won. Cutting him off is not you being cold, it's you being wise. It's the softest form of power. You're not proving a point. You're protecting your peace. You're not seeking revenge. You're reclaiming your energy. It's not about making him suffer. It's about ending your own suffering. Your energy is not cheap. It is premium, divine, limited. And the truth is, most people don't deserve access to it. Every text you send, every call you answer, every argument you entertain is an investment. Ask yourself this: what kind of return are you getting? Because energy is currency. And you, my love, are the bank. If someone keeps withdrawing from you and depositing nothing in return, that's not a relationship. That's theft. And it's time to lock the vault. Think about your phone. You don't leave it unplugged all night wasting battery on apps running in the background, do you? No, you're careful with it. You preserve it. You close the apps. You charge it. But why don't we do the same with ourselves? Why do we let people run in the background of our minds, draining us with guilt, with confusion, with emotional chaos? Your energy is no less valuable than that battery. In fact, it's the most powerful force you own. And who you give it to determines the quality of your life. Let's talk about the man who keeps coming and going. The one who calls you when he's lonely, disappears when he's fine, and always returns when he feels your silence. You know the type. You reply. You entertain it. You tell yourself maybe this time it'll be different. But here's the hard truth. Every time you respond, you're making a donation from your soul. You're funding a pattern that's robbing you. And the longer you stay plugged in, the more you disconnect from yourself. You are not a charger for broken people. You are not a backup plan for someone who never made you a priority. You are not a therapist for a man who refuses to heal himself. Stop giving away what is sacred. Stop responding out of habit. Because silence is not rejection. It is redirection. When you stop feeding the wrong connections, the right ones finally have space to enter. There's a reason why luxury brands don't go on sale. Because their value doesn't decrease just because someone can't afford it. Be that woman, the one who knows her worth so deeply. She doesn't explain it, she just embodies it. And if someone can't meet your energy, match your effort, or respect your presence, then they don't belong in your space. Simple. No announcement needed. Just graceful exit. Take a look at your daily life. How often do you argue with people just to feel understood? How many times have you drained yourself trying to convince someone of your heart, your worth, your loyalty? That's premium energy. Wasted. Because the right people feel you without explanation. They don't need proof. They don't need paragraphs. They just know. And if they don't, let them go. Even in friendships, your energy is sacred. That friend who only calls when they need something, who never claps when you win, who gets uncomfortable when you talk about growth. That's not a friend. That's a shadow following your light. And every minute you spend trying to fix it, explain it, or pretend it's not draining you is energy you'll never get back. There's power in the quiet woman. The one who doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't react. She just removes herself because she knows her energy is too rare to be handed out like samples. She is not for everybody. She is not for entertainment. She is a whole experience. And experiences aren't available on demand. They are earned. The next time someone reaches out with half a foot, the next time they play with your time, your heart, your spirit, ask yourself, is this worth my premium energy? Because the truth is, where your energy goes, your life flows. And when you master how you spend it, you master your entire reality. Healing doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like silence, stillness, detachment, no closure, no confrontation, just disappearing into your own peace. Because healing, real healing, happens when you stop explaining your pain to people who caused it. When you stop rehearsing your worth in front of someone who was blind to it. When you stop touching the wound and let it breathe. That's when the soul begins to recover, in silence, away from the noise of apologies that were never sincere, away from the chaos of half love and mixed signals. You ever notice how a cut on your body heals faster when you stop picking at it? When you stop touching it, pressing it, checking it every 2 minutes? The same applies to emotional wounds. The more you revisit, text, stalk, check if he's online, the longer the pain lingers. You don't need to speak to someone to move on from them. You need to speak to yourself. You need to sit in your stillness and remember who you were before you met them, and rebuild from there. Healing in silence doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've decided not to bleed all over people who didn't bother to understand where you were hurt. It means you've graduated from begging for explanations, from demanding answers that would never come, from trying to make sense of nonsense. Sometimes your silence is the loudest form of self-love. You're not ignoring them. You're honoring you. Take a moment from your daily life. Think about a noisy room. When you step outside, what's the first thing you notice? Peace. Clarity. You can hear your own breath again. That's Sashi Sashi Sa. What silence after chaos feels like. That man who ghosted you, who disrespected you, who left you second guessing your worth, he's the noise. And when you cut that off, when you stop waiting for his explanation or apology, you hear you again. Your truth, your power, your voice. There's a reason therapists tell you to journal, to meditate, to go inward. Because healing doesn't come from reaction. It comes from reflection. And silence is the space where reflection lives. You don't need to announce your pain to the world to be seen. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is go quiet and build in secret. Love yourself in private. Cry where no one sees you. And then show up one day with a healed heart and a stronger spine, shocking everyone who thought they broke you. Even in relationships, silence is healing. When he texts you again, not because he misses you, but because he misses your attention. You don't respond, you don't engage, you don't reopen the wound. That silence, that's a boundary. That's your scar saying, We've been here before, and we won't go back. Healing is when you no longer need revenge, when you no longer crave closure, when your silence speaks what words never could. I'm done suffering for someone who never showed up for me. Think about a garden. You don't dig up the seeds every day to see if they're growing. You water it, let the sun do its work, and you trust the process. Your healing is the same. You plant the decision. You water it with patience. You let time and silence grow something new, something stronger, something that doesn't depend on anyone else's validation. And in that silence, you become dangerous in the most beautiful way. Not because you're angry, but because you're focused. Because you've reclaimed your narrative. Because you've stopped waiting to be saved and started being your own savior. You don't post about it. You don't scream it. You live it. Quietly, powerfully, silently. Because real queens heal in silence and come back with kingdoms. You don't have to scream your worth for him to hear it. You don't have to post quotes about betrayal or share cryptic stories online, hoping he gets the message. Let him regret in peace, while you rise in silence, in strength, in power. There is nothing more haunting to someone who lost you than your silence paired with your glow up. You don't need revenge when your comeback is divine. Because the truth is, real power isn't loud. Real power is transformation. It's when you stop proving and start evolving. Every second you waste trying to make him see your value is a second stolen from your future. Let him sit in the silence of what he destroyed. Let him scroll through your life and realize you didn't pause for him. You pivoted. You blossomed. You left without slamming the door. Because queens don't make noise when they exit, they make history after they're gone. Think of a woman who gets left on red, ghosted, ignored. She doesn't chase. She doesn't double text. She dives into her glow up. And while he wonders why she hasn't begged, hasn't reacted, hasn't fallen apart, she's busy becoming unrecognizable in her success. That's the kind of regret you want him to feel. The kind that haunts him when he sees your name and realizes he's blocked from access. Not just your phone, but your life. You are not here to fix a man who broke you. You are not his punishment or his project. You are the lesson he learns too late. And you don't need to teach it. Life will. Life always makes people sit in the silence they created. That silence becomes their mirror. Every time he laughs with someone else, but feels empty after. Every time he replays a memory, but knows he doesn't get a second chance. That is regret. That is karma. And your only job is to keep rising. Take an everyday example. A woman walks out of a toxic relationship. She doesn't yell. She doesn't curse him out. She simply says, okay, and leaves. Fast forward 2 years. She's thriving. Her skin is glowing. Her energy is calm. Her circle is tight. And her purpose is loud. That man, he's still confused. Still looking for her and everyone else. Still wondering how she became so untouchable. That's what power looks like. Not revenge, not drama, just peace. and a level up so loud it echoes in his silence. People always say, he'll regret losing you. But here's the truth. He'll only regret it if you stop looking back. If you keep returning, forgiving, and explaining, you're still part of his comfort zone. Cut that cord. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Let your growth be the consequence of his loss. Let your elevation be the punishment he gave himself. Because a woman who knows her worth doesn't fight for attention. She disappears from where it's not given. And while he's stuck in the cycle of what if, maybe, and I should have, you'll be writing a new story. One where your happiness doesn't come from someone's apology, but from your own alignment. One where your power isn't handed to someone to validate, but is owned, embodied, and unstoppable. You'll attract peace, purpose, people who mirror your worth. And in that space, his regret becomes irrelevant. Because your rise, it becomes the headline he'll never stop reading, but can never touch again. Let him regret in silence. Let him miss you in rooms filled with people who'll never compare. Let him search for what he lost in places that don't even carry your kind of magic. While you build anything. But because you finally remembered, you were always the prize. So here you are, standing at the edge of silence, at the doorstep of your rebirth. You didn't need to scream. You didn't need to chase. You didn't need to break yourself into pieces just to prove you were whole. You remembered your worth in the silence where no one clapped. And that is where your power was born. Let them say you changed. Let them whisper, she's different now, because you are, and you should be. You've outgrown the version of yourself who waited for closure. You've buried the girl who begged for bare minimum. You cremated the silence that was once filled with hope and turned it into a force that no one can touch anymore. You didn't just walk away. You elevated. What they thought was your breakdown was actually your breakthrough. They thought you were falling apart, but you were falling into place. You were rearranging your soul just to prove you were whole. You remembered your worth in the silence where no one clapped, and that is where your power was born. Let them say you changed. Let them whisper, she's different now. Because you are, and you should be. You've outgrown the version of yourself who waited for closure. You buried the girl who begged for bare minimum. You cremated the silence that was once filled with hope and turned it into a force that no one can touch anymore. You didn't just walk away, you elevated. What they thought was your breakdown was actually your breakthrough. They thought you were falling apart, but you were falling into place. You were rearranging your soul, rebuilding your mind, refueling your power. Real queens don't explode, they evolve. They don't curse, they cut off. They don't clap back, they level up. You see, some goodbyes are blessings, and some absences are gifts. Sometimes, the greatest thing someone can give you is the space to become who they never believed you could be. And you did it. Quietly, gracefully, fiercely. Because here's the truth they'll never understand. You can't lose a woman who knows she's the storm. You can't play with someone who's learned to love her own company. You can't manipulate a soul who has already sat with her darkness and turned it into light. You are no longer the woman who texts long paragraphs hoping to be understood. You are no longer the girl who cries herself to sleep for someone who slept peacefully after breaking her. You've grown, you've changed, you've risen. And now, let them watch. Let them scroll through your photos and wonder who this new woman is. Let them realize they had access to gold and treated it like dust. Let them feel the silence they created and regret the comfort they'll never get back. Because when a woman learns to love herself again, she becomes the kind of fire that doesn't burn to destroy, but to cleanse everything that once tried to dim her. Tell the world, I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose to become after it. I don't need closure from someone who was never open. I don't need apologies from people who knew exactly what they were doing. And I don't need validation from hands that never held me with care. I am enough. I am whole. I am unstoppable. You don't get to dim just because someone else was blind to your light. You don't get to dim just because someone else was blind to your light. You don't get to dim just because someone else was blind to your light. You don't get to dim just because someone else was blind to your light. You don't get to dim just because someone else was blind to your light. You don't get to dim just because someone else was blind to your light. You don't get to dim because someone walked away. You rise, you roar, and you rebuild. Not with revenge, but with radiance. Watch me disappear from your life like I never existed and reappear in mine like I always belonged. That's the kind of energy the healed woman carries. Not bitter, not broken, just better. Silent, selected, sovereign. They thought your silence was weakness. But your silence, it was sacred. It was where your spirit reset. It was where you learned that sometimes the most powerful move is not reacting, not explaining, not returning, but rising. So to every woman listening, repeat this in your soul. I don't chase, I attract. I don't break, I bloom. And I don't wait to be chosen. I choose me. Because at the end of the day, darling, it was never about him. It was always about you. And now, it always will be.